Okay, I want to unpack Trump's big, beautiful bill that got through the House of Representatives this morning.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
I guess they were up all night long debating all the little intricacies of this, and I have read all of the headlines and news stories, and hopefully on today's little webinar, I can kind of unpack the things within this 1,000-page bill that might actually have an impact on your life, and maybe, you know, sort through some of the bias out there and give you kind of a level-headed perspective as to what the heck is in this thing. Of course, it needs to go through the Senate now. Trump has an ambitious plan. He said, I wanted to get it through the House by Memorial Day. That has, in fact, happened. He wants it to get through the Senate and signed into law by the 4th of July. The naysayers say this thing is going to get chewed up, spit out by the Senate, bounce back and forth, have its teeth filed down, and we're not going to get anything till the end of the year. We hit our debt ceiling sometime mid-August. So, of course, when that happens, there's always a threat of the government shutting down, and we start to monetize debt and prioritize who we pay back. So if it lasted till the end of the year, no doubt that would cause a tremendous amount of turmoil. But Trump's hope is this thing gets passed by the 4th of July. So let's go into what the heck is actually inside of it. So these are the things that I think have the biggest impact on most of you watching this right now. It extends his 2017 tax reform bill. So I did a webinar right after Trump got elected, and one of the tabs was taxes are a non-event. There isn't going to be a massive run into your CPA's office or your tax preparer's office to change everything in your life. Tweak how much you pull from the IRA, massive adjustments to your estate tax, going back to having an itemized schedule rather than just taking a standardized deduction. He's going to permanently extend the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So this represents a much more simplified code for the lion's share of you. I think last I checked, it's like 85% of American taxpayers now use a standard deduction. Back in, I would say, I guess the good old days, I don't know if they're good old days though. Back in the day, you used to have to keep track of all of your receipts, all of your giving, mortgage interest, amongst many, many other things. Now, with the standardized deduction being as high as it is, most of you are going to take a standardized deduction, especially with some of the things I'm about to talk about. A surprising thing that I saw this morning was the SALT tax increase. Now, SALT tax is an acronym for state and local taxes. This is state income taxes. This is state property taxes. This is state sales tax. With Trump's first tax reform, this was capped at $10,000. This was a direct dig on blue states. This is a direct dig on places like California, New York, Connecticut, places that have tremendously high property taxes, places that have high income taxes. You were capping out the deductibility of your state taxes at just $10,000. It was actually 5 Republicans from blue states, they were calling themselves the Salty Five, that got this increase to $40,000, much to the dismay of a lot of really bright blue conservative, Freedom Caucus types, people. Chip Roy in Texas has already said that he's not going to, go for this with the SALT tax increase. I have a feeling if you didn't know what SALT taxes were before I said this, you're going to see SALT tax go back and forth, and they're going to increase it and decrease it. I don't know if it'll end at $40,000. It might get pared down a little bit, but honestly, for most of you, you're going to take the standard deduction anyways, and SALT taxes only come into play if you're itemizing. And again, South Carolina, tremendously low property taxes. Pretty darn good state income tax profile for retirees because you don't pay tax on your Social Security and sometimes military pensions and things like that. So we have, as much as we have that 7% high bracket in South Carolina, I look at South Carolina's tax code as somewhat advantageous for retirees. So this probably doesn't affect you unless you've got a ton of real estate and you pay a ton of property tax, unless you've got um, yeah, it's probably not affecting most of you, but it's worth noting that it has been up to $40,000. Estate and gift tax exemptions. This is always a fear. I think in my lifetime, this thing is going to drop to a single digit $1 million number, 5 million or something like that. Trump bumped it up to 15 million. That's per person. So you'll be able to die in this country with $30 million and not pay a nickel in estate tax. You can also give that away through a provision within the tax code. You need to work with a good tax preparer or CPA in order to implement that. So if anyone's looking to give $30 million away to their heirs, 2026 would be when you wanted to start doing that. So this is a big one, right? So if you remember on the campaign trail, Trump said that he was not going to tax Social Security. Now, he wasn't able to get that exact language into his big, beautiful bill. But what he did do was if you're over the age of 65, your standard deduction is going to increase by $4,000, $8,000 if you're married filing jointly. So you already have an increased standard deduction in the $30,000 range. They're going to increase that by another $8,000 if you're over the age of 65. So if you're a retiree out there, just those 4 bullet points I gave you, this is an incredibly fortuitous, big, beautiful bill as far as taxation goes for you. So you should be applauding everything that I just outlined. Now, this is a big one. So a lot of individuals who work with us under the age of 65 will, let's call it what it is, they'll game the Affordable Care Act by manipulating their income under a certain threshold so they get almost fully subsidized health insurance. Because the Affordable Care Act, the way it works is if your income stays below certain thresholds, you get subsidies based off of that. They're going to be paring back those tax credits by about 20%. So once again, we will have to continue to play this income game. We might have to pull more money from your non-qualified accounts or your IRAs for a time, keeping your taxable income a little bit lower in order to continue those tax credits that you're receiving to get your health insurance at a discounted rate. Good news for me and Michael Bear and Colin with another one on the way. David with a new baby. We are a fertile company, I must say, folks. We got lots of babies getting cranked out of current financial partners. Each baby is going to get an increased tax credit of $500. So the tax credit per child right now is $2,000. It's now going to be $2,500 per child. That's only going to last to 2028. I could also tell you with 4 kids, 7 and under, the child tax credit is no reason to have a baby. They cost a lot more than $2,500 per year. No tax on tips and overtime. Again, another campaign promise that he is now delivering on. You will not pay tax on tips and overtime. There is a little progressive kind of hitch in there as to how you're going to actually qualify for that. Most people are making a low enough dollar amount where they're not going to pay any tax on their tips and overtime. The auto loan interest deduction, not a big fan of this, but you're able to deduct your auto loan interest up to $10,000. If you have over $10,000 in auto loan interest per year, you need to, start listening to Dave Ramsey a little bit more often. But if you've got some auto loan out there, you could start deducting the interest. Again, a lot of administrative, it's kind of a mess. And I don't like this type of stuff because I'm all for a simplified tax code. This does add pages to the code, complexity to the code, but it is in there. So if you got car loans out there, you can now start deducting the car loans. I think it's an American-made car thing there too. You can't just deduct it for any car. MAGA accounts, I just read he changed it to Trump accounts, like literally within, the morning hours. It was called MAGA accounts. MAGA was an acronym for Money Accounts for Growth and Advancement. Another thing for us baby makers to celebrate, you're going to get $1,000 given to you from the government if you make a baby in the next 4 years. Um, Honestly, again, these accounts are like more restrictive and less tax advantaged than 529. So, um, I don't really get it. I don't think there's going to be a major use case for them, um, outside of getting the free $1,000. So it's almost like sometimes banks will say, "Hey, we'll give you $500 if you open up a bank account with us." Um, the bank might not actually be the best bank, but you do it to get the $500. That's how I see these counts coming in. Like people are going to open them up so they get the free $1,000, but they're not going to actively engage with them because honestly, you would be better off funding a 529, but you're going to engage with it purely to get the $1,000 baby bonus. So those are the big ones for everyday Americans. Let's move on to small business owners. Small business owners, um, there was kind of a proclamation made as far as I'm concerned, and of course, Trump's first tax reform bill back in 2017 might have been the most fortuitous tax code adjustments made for small businesses, certainly in my lifetime, maybe in the history of the code. There was a ton of ability to write off pass through entity income. It was at 20%. He's increasing that to 23%. Now, an interesting thing where I say it's a real proclamation being made on the campaign trail, he said that he was going to drop corporate taxes to 15%. He did not. He kept that at 21%. So there is a clear favoring of small businesses over corporations, which makes my heart smile as a small business. Um, but they're supposed to be kind of when you adjust tax code, they're supposed to be kind of you don't pick winners and losers. Now, that hasn't been happening for a while now. If you look at like the Inflation Reduction Act, there was all kinds of picking winners and losers in that. But this is really a statement being made by the White House saying we want to continue to look out for small business owners because they're the engine of America and growth and job creation. And the little increase in the pass through entity deduction to 23%, I think, is a big one. Here's another big one. 100% bonus depreciation has been reinstated. So if you run a small business and you're contemplating making a big investment in your business, you probably want to wait until this thing actually gets written because I think bonus depreciation right now, I think, is only 40%. It's going up to 100%. So if you're buying a big, heavy SUV or you're buying machinery or equipment, there's even some provisions within it that are allowing people to expense equipment, structures, and research and development at 100%. So my guess this is going to pertain to factories, um, equipment, heavy equipment, machinery. You're going to be able to expense it, whereas before you had to you had to depreciate it over time. You're now just going to be able to expense it in one fell swoop, so it comes directly off your income. This type of stuff, in my opinion, because I see it personally, I'm going to probably take advantage of these types of things. Um, is a major shot in the arm to the economy. When you give small business owners the ability to buy stuff and 100% bonus depreciate it, write it off as an expense, it makes small business owners want to go out and spend money. So those are the big ones for small business owners. Now, what's the other stuff inside of it that you're going to be hearing from the people on TV barking back and forth about? Well, one, like I said at the beginning of the little talk, we're about to run up on the debt ceiling again. Right. And this is something that I know conservatives like to tout, and Doge, that was supposed to fix everything. The thing with Doge is severance packages are still getting paid till like September, right? So a lot of the cuts Doge made, you're not going to see until next year. But we're hitting the debt ceiling again. So they're going to increase that debt ceiling by $4 trillion. And we were about to bump up on it in the middle of July or early August. And that would have created a bunch of turmoil and stress within the marketplace, because we would have been having to consider who we welch on next, which seems like something that we run up on every couple of years or so. They're going to be taxing. Here's I should have put some in air quotes. There's about 58 universities that fall into this taxing of some university endowments. Of course, Harvard is one of them. It's I can't even really find the language that catches these universities. My guess is it's going to be the size of the endowment. Harvard has a massive endowment. I think they're going to start taxing some capital gains and interest and dividends on some of the money inside of these endowments that was not getting taxed. And I think there'll probably be a provision based on like how much of the endowment is actually getting used for the purpose of the endowment, right? Like endowments are in place, so some of the money in them go towards supporting students who don't have the money to pay for college, and go towards supporting the university's initiatives on research and development, and the things that universities do. And if your endowment is of the size that you're not the, taking enough out of it on an annual basis for those types of activities, you're going to get taxed on your endowment. That's my guess is how it'll transpire. Removal of a bunch of green energy tax credits. So electric vehicles had a $7,500 tax credit. That's going away. Solar panels, same thing. I don't know the dollar amount, but taking that away. The two biggest savings mechanisms, because of course, if you're giving taxes away, tax breaks away, you have to offset it with savings. Is green energy tax credits. There was a tremendous number of those passed in what's called the Inflation Reduction Act that Joe Biden passed, which a lot of people said it should have been called like an environmental plan, because there really wasn't all that much on inflation within it. It was more about these green energy tax credits. It was more about bailing out some of the municipalities that were running up on hard times due to COVID. So he's getting rid of a bunch of these green energy tax credits, which is also ironic because, Elon Musk was glued to his hip for the longest time, and you will no longer get a $7,500 tax credit when you buy a Tesla. Something tells me Elon Musk is okay with that because he's kind of got a moat around him. All the other companies are going bankrupt creating electric cars, and he's doing just fine. So I think that's actually, as much as it would seem like it would be a bad thing for Tesla, it'll actually be a good thing because there will be less and less competition. Simplified student loan repayment schedules. So, of course, Biden was trying to just get rid of student loan debt for some people. Trump has come out and said, no, 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 you're paying your student loan debt. And in fact, you need to pay your student loan debt based off of either a 10-year schedule or a 25-year schedule. No more elimination of student loan debt. No longer are we going to have all these wacky provisions where you don't pay student loan debt. You got to pay it back. You got to pay it back over 10 or 25 years. That's also going to represent a major cost savings for the government. New spending on the southern border and defense, a bunch of provisions in there with paying more ICE agents and border agents, and they're going to build the wall. I think there's like $4 billion in there to build more wall. The other one is the Golden Dome. So, of course, everyone knows about the Iron Dome in Israel, which had to be used recently. It's bizarre that no one talks about that, but like something like 80 rockets were fired at Israel, and their Iron Dome stopped all of them. Not to get too Middle Eastern political here, but we got to see the effectiveness of that recently. And Trump wants one, but he wants to call it the Golden Dome in true Trump fashion. So that's within the bill. And then finally, what you're seeing from the left side of the aisle, what you're seeing from the media, which kind of go hand in hand with the left side of the aisle, is he's gutting Medicaid. He's gutting SNAP, supplemental nutritional programs for food stamps for impoverished people. Here's what he's actually doing within it. Okay, so basically what he's saying is you can't get Medicaid if you're an able-bodied person, not if you're pregnant, not if you're in school, not if you're on disability, but if you're an able-bodied person, age 19 to 64, there's a work requirement. You need to work 80 hours per month if you want to get Medicaid. Now, if you're disabled, if you have health ailments, you still qualify for Medicaid. But if you're able bodied, 19 to 64, you got to work 80 hours per week. That's new. And then they used to just check up on you once a year. They're going to check up on you twice a year. So I think a lot of conservatives are going to applaud that. Now, the administration of this is going to be a nightmare, right? Because you look at the number of people who are on Medicaid. How are you going to actually test this? That's for the government to figure out. Also coming with that is, all of the beefed up, dollars that are going into this in order to audit it and ongoingly administer it. So that's what's in Trump's big, beautiful bill. Hopefully, this was helpful, and more to come. We'll see what the Senate says. When the Senate changes it, we'll record a new one. Maybe I'll record something with Lewis Tyson, who heads up our tax preparation team, and he can give you some hot takes on it. But I wanted to get something out to you ASAP because you're going to see a lot about this in the coming days on TV, probably plenty of it over the course of the weekend. And I wanted to get out ahead of it and show you some stuff that might have an impact on your life. Thanks for watching.